You've seen the agitation from young people and the recent protests, not the very most pleasing situation any president or any leader would obviously want, and young people are clearly not happy with the situation as well. And of course, over 20 people died, 300 more injured. You promised to give these families some explanation. You also said that you will support the injured and that a mechanism is there to hold the police to account. How far have you gone in realizing these?
There is a lot of progress that has been made. In fact, part of the launch of the resilience program that I launched is part of responding to some of the issues that have been raised about jobs. The reason why I'm in Germany is because of the same reasons around jobs for our young people. The same way we have a housing program responding to jobs for our young people. The same reason why we are doing the digital ecosystem, because we are responding to jobs. Because ultimately,
let's go back to the protests before we come back to the jobs, Mr. President.
The protests were about opportunities. That's
yes,
why I'm saying.
But they also did not want tax hikes, and which also bring me back to the question of debt. How do you in fact sustain the debts? But you said there are alternatives. Yeah. But then you made a promise in your apology on X to these young people that you would ensure that it doesn't happen again, and these families will be given an explanation.
Absolutely.
Do we see the president taking responsibility for what happened to the past
Absolutely.
months?
My government has stepped forward to say we are going to support the families that lost their loved ones. We are working on a mechanism to make sure that that happens.
It's 2 months on.
Yeah, it's 2 months on, but you know, I just assembled a new government. They are working on the nuts and bolts to make sure that we get that there. I am responding to the issues raised about opportunities. And that is why I'm telling you, we just launched, before I came to this city, a 200,000 job program that will support young people that are coming from vulnerable neighborhoods, even as we respond to climate action and climate change. That is the essence of why we have a strained economy. We have a strained economy because of climate change, switching from drought to floods and using our resources. Instead of developing our social sector, instead of paying our debt, we are now focused on managing the effects of climate change. And that is the reason why it has to be always a balance between what you're doing for the greater good and what you are doing to manage the crisis.
I'm glad that you said you are walking a path to make sure that these people are given an explanation for the debts as well. And I'm sure you also know that the people who want you to terminate your social contract, the people who went out to the streets chanting Ruto must go, no longer appreciate mere words from presidents. What is your assurance to these people?
Assurance is they will see us in action. The rollout of the programs that are there. And for your information, much of the protest was fueled by fake news and a majority of disinformation and misinformation. Or there is this tax about dogs, or there is this tax about this land, about that, and they were not there. You know, ultimately, when people realized that what was being used to drive the negativity around the finance bill were actually issues that were not in the finance bill.
Was that why you said there are criminals and people involved in treason?
Of course, there were criminals involved. I mean, the people who burned down Parliament, the people who burned down people's businesses. What do you call those people?
But they were peaceful protesters in the beginning.
How does a peaceful protester burn down a building?
Would you say that the actions that were seen on ground aggravated the situation in a way that young people had to also retaliate to stand their ground?
Do you agree that people who burn down buildings are criminals?
I do not condone violence, Mr. President, but your police officers,
you are
the commander-in-chief,
yes, and
you're also the chair of the National Security Council.
Absolutely.
You may not hold the guns, yet you pull the guns.
Let me tell you that the police have a responsibility to protect both the protesters and innocent citizens and property and life. And that's what they must do. It is a delicate balance, but it must be done.
Lastly, your interest in the AU Commission chairpersonship. How do we see this change in Africa's outlook, especially in regards to the African peer review mechanism, finding African solutions to Africa's economic and governance challenges rather than relying on external institutions that in a way undermine Africa's autonomy?
My colleagues at the Africa Union have mandated me to oversee the reform of institutions of the Africa Union to make it fit for purpose. It is one of the assignments I want to undertake because it is important. I have already done the first 2 meetings to make sure that we align and repurpose Africa Union to respond to the issues that affect our continent today, issues of intra-African trade, issues of stability in our continent, issues of the youth bulge, issues of making sure that we use our resources to create jobs in Africa instead of exporting raw materials, and making sure that we trade more with ourselves. These are critical issues that are important for Africa, and institutional development, making sure that the AU Commission is fit for purpose. We have an accountability mechanism using the Pan-African Parliament that today is dysfunctional. And we have an AU, an African court that makes sure that it provides the mechanism for interpreting what we are doing and managing the nuances between the different institutions. That is my focus, on making sure that we have an AU that is fit for purpose and that serves our continent, our countries, and our people in the best way possible. And I'm focused on achieving it.
We hope to see a positive.